I still remember the night she stood beside me at the office gala, swirling her wine glass, barely listening as I talked about the business I was building. Her name was Leah, and back then I thought she was my future. I told her about the long nights, the risks, the failures that almost broke me. She looked at me, smiled faintly, and said, "You're trying too hard. Not everyone gets to make it." She didn't mean it as encouragement. I could hear the mockery in her voice. I brushed it off, thinking she was just tired. But deep down, something in me cracked. A few days later, I signed a contract that changed everything. My startup finally got its first major investor. I rushed to tell her, expecting at least a warm hug or a proud smile. Instead, she laughed and said, "Relax. It's just luck. Don't start acting like you're someone important now." Then, right there at that same party, she walked off to talk to another guy. A smooth-talking, wealthy executive named Adrian. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm casually, and kept glancing at me like she wanted me to see it. That night was the first time I realized she wasn't impressed by me. She was waiting for someone who was already successful. While I was still climbing the mountain, she wanted someone who was already at the top. I stood there quietly holding my drink, watching her laugh at Adrian's every word like he was the most interesting man alive. It hurt, but I said nothing. I just watched, memorizing everything. From that moment, something inside me changed. I stopped chasing her validation. I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who never cared if I succeeded. I went home, opened my laptop, and worked like my life depended on it. While she was busy chasing attention, I was chasing purpose. While she was posting pictures at rooftop parties, I was building something real, something that wouldn't vanish when the music stopped. Weeks turned into months. My business grew faster than I ever imagined. New offices, new employees, new contracts. Money started flowing in. My name started appearing in articles. But I didn't call her. I didn't send a single message. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I no longer needed her approval to breathe. She was slowly becoming a distant chapter in a book I no longer wanted to read. One day, she called me out of nowhere. Her voice sounded casual, like nothing had ever happened. "Hey," she laughed. "I saw your interview on TV. Look at you now, big man." Her eye smiled and said, "Yeah, things are going well." She waited, expecting me to ask her out, to meet, to reconnect, but I didn't. I ended the call with a polite, "Take care." She stayed silent for a moment, surprised. That was the first time she felt me slipping away. But reality hit her harder a month later at a mutual friend's engagement party. I walked in, not alone this time. Beside me was Arya, the woman who believed in me when no one else did. She didn't care about the money. She was there during the 2 a.m. breakdowns, the failures, the rejections. She held my hand when I had nothing. And now that I had everything, she was still holding it. Not tighter, not looser, just the same. Steady, real. Lee spotted us from across the room. At first, she smiled confidently, assuming I'd come running up to her like before. But when she saw my hand interlocked with Arya's, her smile vanished. She walked over with a shaky laugh. "So, this is new." I nodded calmly and said, "This is Arya, the woman who stayed when no one else did." That sentence hit her harder than any argument ever could. Her voice trembled as she tried to joke. "So, you don't miss me at all for the first time?" I looked straight into her eyes and answered, "I don't spend time missing what was never real." Silence. The music kept playing, but for her, everything paused. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the man she used to overlook, but the man she could no longer reach. Later that night, as I was leaving with Arya, I saw Lee standing alone by the balcony. No laughter, no flirting, just quiet regret in her eyes. She wasn't crying, but she was breaking. Not because I moved on, but because I moved on without looking back, without hesitation, without revenge, just peace. She whispered softly as I walked past. "You really don't need me anymore, do you?" I paused, gave a small, genuine smile, and said, "I never needed someone to believe in me after I proved it to myself." Then I walked away. No dramatic goodbye, no hatred, just closure. And that's when she finally understood success isn't about having someone who laughs when you fail or someone who stays only when you shine. It's about finding someone who stands beside you whether the world is clapping or silently watching you fall. And by the time she realized that, I was already gone. Not angry, not bitter, just gone.